Thank you, Ranjit, for joining us on this recorded spotlight session for our Israeli Bubble community members. We have on the call myself, we have Tal, we have Roy from No Code ROI, and of course we have Ranjit, the CEO of Atomic Fusion. Without further ado, Ranjit, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience here?
Hey guys, yep, my pleasure. Hey guys, so this is Ranjit, and I'm a Bubble developer, and I run Atomic Fusion. I've been doing Bubble development for the last, I think it's 4 years now. So I've been through the old responsiveness engine, the new responsiveness engine, all of the interesting changes that Bubble has gone through over the last few years, and it's been a pretty interesting journey. And I mainly work with startups to help them build products with Bubble. I've helped a few startups raise their pre-seed and seed funds based off Bubble apps that we built with them. And yeah, it's really fun to kind of help startups and push the little guys ahead with no code.
Sounds great. So you talked about helping startups, and your actually what did you tell about your experience with Bubble? What kind of projects or applications have you worked on? If there anything in your history.
Yeah. So I've worked on all kinds of projects now. Earlier it used to be slightly less complex projects because Bubble was not as developed as it is right now. So even 4 years back there was a limit to as much you could build on Bubble. But over the last couple of years, I've been working on a lot of really serious, complex SaaS products, a lot of B2C, B2B stuff. The B2C stuff is really interesting because it scales with their users, right? Because there's a whole team working on marketing, and you're getting thousands of users coming in, and you have to keep up with that whole growth of the product. On the B2B side, it's really critical because the features are really complex. So I've actually been also working on building plugins. So I build plugins as Blur apps. That's another name of me, basically. So I build plugins. So then a lot of clients that I work with, sometimes they need this very specific functionalities that Bubble doesn't offer off the bat. So we have to go in and build it via plugins, some JavaScript. And yeah, it's really interesting. So I think the coolest project I worked on was a startup called July, which launched on Product Hunt earlier this week. And I worked with them for about a year, and they went from like an idea, like a very rough built out page on Bubble, to a full-on app with like 200 plus users. And then they finally went on to raise money from the founders of Reddit, and now they're just skyrocketing, and it's really cool. I'm in touch with those guys, and it's just amazing how those
it's really interesting because one of the things we are trying to emphasize in our community is that Bubble is not just for POC, MVP, or for early stage startups or products, right? So this is a good example to showcase that it's far beyond that MVP, or it could actually scale to thousands of users, right? So
absolutely,
I guess you have some examples, as you mentioned, B2C and B2B, which normally, I guess, in B2C you are at least considering thousands of users, right?
Yeah. And it's really cool to see now that Bubble actually can handle it very easily. So I remember in 2019 when I was just starting out, and I just got my first freelance gigs. I think this was during the lockdown. I used to call myself an MVP developer, a no-code MVP, because that was basically what people looked at Bubble for. And now when you look at it, you've got like, I myself have a app, right? Atomic Fusion. It's got like what, 4,000 users almost now. So it's pretty crazy what Bubble can do. And it's just been about 2 or 3 years. It's amazing how they've grown.
Yeah, that we keep hearing that, we just want to make sure that people do get that message, correctly. But, it's also worth mentioning that, Atomic Fusion, this name has been brought up in our community for at least, a few weeks since we launched the community. So, could you tell us or tell the audience who are not familiar with atomic fusion, what it does and how can it help them? So,
Yep.
go
So
ahead.
the goal with atomic fusion is to give you a co-pilot for bubble development. So today, atomic fusion lets you create a curated library of components that you can fill them out based on a huge collection of components and assets that we have on atomic fusion. When you install the Chrome extension, you get like a little toolbar on the right inside your bubble editor. So you can just pick up, copy and paste components that you've bookmarked on atomic fusion from there. So it's really simple to kind of build things out. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, build from scratch. You can just pick up ready-made UI kits, for example. You've got blocks and you can just copy paste them into your page, and then your entire page gets built out in a matter of seconds, essentially.
Right. I think the main, I would say, message here is the flow, right? We're always looking for to get that flow running, right? So it is just a great way to kick off your project, right? You don't have to craft like components from so many other, I don't know, kits or marketplaces, right? So
so it's especially useful for freelancers because they want to build good looking apps in the least amount of time. And our goal there is to help them get that done as optimized as possible. So that's really where we are trying to work on atomic fusion now. And yeah, that's agencies, freelancers, that's really where we are targeting.
Amazing. So how did atomic fusion started? You actually mentioned that you acquired it, right? So and can you also tell us more about the reasoning for that, and how did you actually first hear about atomic fusion? That would also be great to hear.
Yeah, that's really cool. That was actually an interesting story. So I'm still working for the startup. So I've been working with them for about 2 years now. It's a B2B startup, the one that I mentioned earlier. And the CTO there is a brilliant bubble developer, by the way, called Brian. And he introduced me to atomic fusion back in early 2022. So like about more than a year back. And he said, look at this tool. It's really cool. You can, build out pages, you can drag components and, build things out really fast. And I was like, yeah, sure. Let me try it out, whatever. So I went in, I installed it, I checked it out, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then, and I used to use it a lot after that. And there was a point around that time where I was starting to, get interested in moving away from just doing freelancing to kind of go into, running my own SaaS startup. And I was looking at MicroAcquire. If you've heard of MicroAcquire, it's a platform where you can buy and sell micro startups. And I was just looking at MicroAcquire to see what kinds of startups people are running, what kind of micro startups people are running. So just for my information, and there I saw Atomic Fusion for sale. And I was like, I know this tool, I love it. So I talked to the founder at that time, Neil. He's a brilliant guy, by the way. And he said, it was a passion project for him, and it was a side project. He had a day job, and it was growing beyond a point where he could, really give it as much time as it needed. So I made him an offer, and we both kind of negotiated. We came to a good deal, and I just went ahead with the acquisition. So it was really great for me in terms of finding that product, because through that process, I also realized that was the right product for me to get, because I am myself, I'm a bubbler. I care about the bubble community. So it just matched.
One of the messages I think that I'm hearing, at least here in this conversation, is that you should build stuff. Maybe you'll get acquired sometime.
So that's actually starting to happen right now. So if you look at MicroAcquire, like, I wish this was there. I told Andrew as well, I wish MicroAcquire existed like 7 years back, because that's when I was like tinkering with all kinds of things, and I wanted to be an inventor and stuff. That was my phase back then. But now it's actually possible. You don't really have to build something and then with the goal of taking it to a multi-million-dollar enterprise.
Right.
You can be a serial micro SaaS creator. So that's amazing.
So how basically, or how did Atomic, Fusion change since you acquired it?
Um,
A year ago, I think, right?
it was almost exactly, so it was in June 2022, so almost exactly a year now.
Mhm.
It's changed a lot in terms of what it looks like, first of all, but also how it's designed on the back end. So it was designed a certain way. It was intended to work a certain way back then. Um, and I actually thought that was not optimal for what it should be if it has to scale to the level that I wanted it to scale, right? So
Mhm.
I made a complete overhaul on the product about in, I think it was in November, like late last year. And I called it Atomic Fusion V4. So V4 is what we're on right now. Well, a slightly more evolved version of V4. And yeah, it's changed in terms of just how it works, how fast it works, what it looks like. So back then it wasn't very visual.
Mhm.
So we got a lot of feedback from, so it was all based on feedback, obviously, at the end of the day. So we got a lot of feedback talking about how people wanted to be more visual. People want to see what they're getting into their bubble app. People want to, people want to click less. People want to um, be able to search for specific assets easier and those kinds of things. So we kind of implemented those things, and it's where it is right now after implementing all of those things. And we're still working on a lot of UX updates on it.
Interesting. So how do you get feedback from users? I mean, are you actually talking to users, or is there
Yeah.
like a feedback system? Did you share about it? Yeah.
So I think that's the most critical part of a startup,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
micro
Any
startup,
startup,
especially.
basically.
Yeah. So I'm literally sending out messages everywhere. So like I find people's emails, like the user's email, and I'm like, okay, I need to talk to this person because I think this person can really give me a lot of insight about the product. And then I kind of try to find them on LinkedIn, I try to find them on Twitter, I try to send them an email. I'm trying to, well, not in a stalking kind of way, but more in a way that,
Mhm.
let's make it a better tool for the community, and
Right.
a lot of people respond. A lot of people are very, very nice about it, and they give some really good feedback. Sometimes, very often, it's harsh feedback, but that's the kind of feedback that really helps, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually the harshest feedback is what actually turns into an update on the product, right? So I love that. Um, but yeah, that's basically how it goes.
Amazing. So, if people want to reach out and, ask for features, I guess it is, possible, and you
Yep.
are,
Yeah. So
uh,
there's a feedback option on the product itself.
mhm.
And if you type out a message there, it comes to my email directly. So any feedback or any suggestions, anything at all, any ideas people have, they can just type it out there. It's in the header on the product itself, and I get an email in my inbox.
Okay, good. Good to know that, and to all the people that are listening or watching
Yeah.
this video, we welcome you to send your feedbacks.
Oh, please. Yes, I
Now
love that.
we know that someone is actually checking his email box. It's refreshing, but today with the advance of B2B and B2C startups, I know that you want to be closer to your customer.
Yeah.
So this is just one way to do that.
Yeah, especially because it's a tight knit community. The bubble community is really tight in the sense of how people help each other out.
Right.
So even on the forum, right, if you ask a question, there'll be a lot of people that just come in to answer and help you out just because they can. So that's why I'm a bubbler myself, so I can understand the feedback that other bubblers can give me, right? So it makes a lot of sense to have that line open.
Right. Yeah, it's part of the the being a member in the
Yeah.
ecosystem, right? So yeah, it's one of these I think unique products that is very well centered, right, on Bubble. So I think this is why people, or at least bubblers, feel that I think relation or connection to that, right?
I think so. Yeah, it's completely built on bubble, so
Great.
it's like through and through for bubblers by bubblers.
Exactly. I like that. We should actually embrace that slogan, right? So, one of the latest trends and one of the hottest topics these days is AI, everything about AI. And we know that you've recently introduced AI capabilities in Atomic Fusion. So, could you tell us about it and maybe also walk us through some examples?
Yeah, let me share my screen. So, okay, that's Atomic Fusion, by the way. If you haven't seen it before, that's how it comes into the bubble editor, and then you can just copy and paste things in from here. So let me just give a little background about the AI feature. So one of the things that we heard from our users was that one of the biggest parts, one of the biggest time-consuming parts of their bubble development process was actually populating their apps with text content. And at the same time, I was looking at specific parts of the process to automate. This was about a couple of months back. And then we kind of landed on this copy generation part of the process that we could probably use AI to automate. So that's what I can actually show you here. Okay. So I've got all these assets in my Atomic Fusion library here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this Atomic Blocks full page. So this is essentially an entire page that's built out from a UI kit that Atomic Fusion has published.
Right.
And you can all go and get it on Atomic Fusion. So I'm going to hit AI copy here. This is what triggers the AI functionality. And now here I can provide some context. So if I'm working on a specific app, I can actually give it it's basically a prompt. So my app is, for example, a sales site for so-and-so. I'm going to generate some examples, an app that recommends nearby hiking trails. Sure. And I'm building a landing page. So I'm going to mention that. So that's my app. That's the part of the app I'm building. It's the landing page. And then I'm going to hit generate. So this is going to actually look at the asset that we've picked, which is that example page. And it's going to go through that page and it's going to find all the parts of that page that it can populate the text with. Right. And then it's going to automatically populate that text based on this prompt that we've given it. And we're going to be able to copy paste it into our app. And then that's it. Your page is done. It took its time, but it generated something.
The excitement. So.
So yeah, so basically it's found all of these fields on the page that we picked. And so for example, it found a main header section. So it populated this, discover new hiking trails. Secondary had a tagline. It also generated a brand name for us called Hike App, which is interesting. And so then it also populated these other parts. So there's a pricing section. It's set up pricing sections. So it's given a name, it's given the features that it contains, feature sections, all of this stuff. So I'll actually copy this asset and paste it onto my bubble app. And then we'll be able to preview it and see what it looks like.
Okay, so
yeah, that's copied from Atomic Fusion. I can just go here. So I'm gonna hit paste with styles because that component that we picked, the page, it has styles attached to it as well. So we copied it with AI, and now we're going to paste it with styles, and the AI is going to come in. The AI content is going to come in with it as well. This takes a second because it has a lot of styles. So essentially what it's doing is in the background, it's not only copying the entire page, but it's also picked up all the styles that came with the page and it's dumping it into your styles tab in your bubble app. So earlier what used to happen was you upload an asset onto Atomic Fusion, but since Atomic Fusion didn't support styles back then, you had to define the styles on the element itself, right? And then upload it. But now what we've done is we've allowed a functionality where you can upload an asset or a component from your bubble editor into Atomic Fusion with styles. So you can define styles, and then Atomic Fusion automatically picks up the relevant styles and copies it with them. So that's what it's doing. So it found all of these, it found a lot of styles on it right now. So it's kind of pasting all of the styles into this test app of mine.
Yeah, it's also important to note right? That it's really important. It's actually very important to work with styles, to maintain that I would say optimal site loads. So yeah, because people tend to forget or not really look at the style or the benefits, right, of but it's really essential if you're
And you're
building
absolutely
app.
right. You're absolutely right about the fact that having not having styles will increase your page load time by a lot.
Right.
Anyway,
So
I'm gonna
this saves
create.
a lot of time, doing it.
Yeah, definitely. It's automated now. You don't have to do it. Otherwise, you would have had to copy each style one
Oh,
by one. So
I can't even imagine.
that's fixed. Okay, there it is. So that's what it looks like. I'm gonna close the Atomic Fusion panel. Okay, so this is what our app looks like. Our page looks like. We just copied this in from Atomic Fusion, and all of these texts and all of these styles have come in from that asset. And also another cool thing about this thing is that we've connected like the style variables to each style. So if you want to, for example, if you want to change the primary color from blue to something else, you can just go here and you can just make it like whatever you want. You can make it red, and it'll just happen everywhere because the styles are defined like that. So it became red. Everything is going to be red now.
So this is amazing. So we have a completely, I would say, built page, right? With all the data, or at least with all the topics and the paragraphs and
FAQs,
the messages
everything
that we need to, that we need to consider. So that's just amazing. I mean,
So
that
let me preview this.
probably, that would probably save a lot of time to people, who are building something from scratch.
Definitely. So we've heard from some developers that they're saving about 20 to 40 minutes per build, and from some agencies that they were saving upwards of like 4 or 5 hours. So that's a good start from this. So yeah, here's what it looks like. So it's gotten all of this stuff. So like all of these features, for example, the text within this button, these secondary texts, CTAs, all of these things, these are all features, etc. All of this stuff. FAQs.
It just looks like a production, ready application, or a website. So yeah, to everyone watching this video, it's just a few clicks, some prompts, and this is the result. It would probably save you developers who need to build something or an application for the client or for themselves. This is just a great way to speed up the development process. To me, at least, it looks like a very professional or professionally looking website. So this is just amazing. I mean,
so we've also heard from some users that this is especially helpful when, for example, if you're a freelancer and you're kind of building an app for a client and you want to present them something. So rather than having lorem ipsum text or dummy text, you can have some content like this, where you actually put in that client's brand name and then you generate the content around that, because it's just a couple of clicks. It just but those couple of clicks just enhance the quality of what you present to them, even if that's not the final content they're going to go with. It's a nice way to present that.
Right.
And also for founders who are kind of building out these sign up pages, these quick landing pages to get signups and stuff like that, I think this is a really helpful way of just getting that done really, really fast.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that early example of yours, where you want to show something. Sometimes you just have a quick introduction session with a potential customer. Yeah, you want to show him or her how quickly can you bring up an app to look like it was professionally made, or it was or at least give it some idea of how it could look like, right? When you're working with Bubble. So this is just one way to speed up or to showcase your work, which is amazing on its own. So I would we could probably use that in some of our customer discovery sessions as well.
That's awesome.
So that's a good point there. So before we wrap up our session, one of the topics that we also hear, and just recently it became a very I would say a big debate, right, in the community about the new pricing model of Bubble. How basically what is your view on that? How do you see this new this announcement and how it it affects your either project, people using Atomic Fusion?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So I remember when the announcement first came out, it was kind of it wasn't a good announcement, to be fair. It wasn't as smoothly done as it could have been. But I think you also have to think about how Bubble is approaching it, because this is a very startup-y thing to do. You change the pricing model because you intend to have a very fair pricing model. I like the way they actually designed the new pricing model, the logic behind it, or the intent behind it. I think it's the specifics that need to be fine-tuned, and that's probably what they're working on. That's why they've given themselves and the community about 18 months. And that's exactly what we've seen happening since that first announcement. So the first announcement came out, people were really upset because they calculated their workload units and they thought they're going to have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars per month. But at that point, I was telling people to kind of not to get too emotionally swayed by it, because obviously that was a first iteration of a new pricing model that Bubble was coming up with, and I have not seen anyone really come up with a pricing model like this, right? Because Bubble is a pioneer in the no-code space, and the no-code space itself is new. So there's really no reference point for Bubble to look at with that pricing model. So I totally understand that, and I suggest that we all kind of acknowledge that from Bubble's perspective as well. But yeah, so since that first announcement, I think they've really worked hard on kind of iterating on the pricing, on the calculation of workload units, on what the cost of each action on Bubble translates to in terms of workload units. And I've also seen a lot of optimization happening on Bubble's end. So if a certain action costed a certain number of workload units before, it now costs less because they've optimized something on their end. So it's a combination of them optimizing stuff and us optimizing stuff as Bubble developers, that we can reach a point where we actually have an optimized app that doesn't cost too much money, or costs a decent amount of money, what you expect. In some cases, you might even end up optimizing so much that it costs less than what it costed before.
Right.
And that's what happened with Atomic Fusion. So I was paying a certain amount before per month, and I just ran some optimizations on Atomic Fusion. Some pretty big optimizations, actually. I changed the data structure a little bit, etc. And ever since then, I've hit at almost less than half of my earlier monthly cost. So it's not that Bubble has gotten more expensive. Yes, definitely for some apps that were designed on that previous structure of Bubble and have gone so far in that direction, it's difficult for them to kind of refactor to optimize for this. I totally understand that. That's really sad for them. I totally feel for them. But for anyone who has a more recent Bubble app, or not such a large Bubble app, or someone who's deciding whether to use Bubble or not right now, I would say go for Bubble because you can optimize for that. And once you do, it really works over time. It really works for you.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And, I think, hearing what you're saying, it pretty much aligns with the messages or one of the main message that we are trying to also to convey to the community members,
Right.
which is really the optimization is the key here.
Yep.
We also had to go and pick up or go back to some of the projects that we've already either delivered or deployed, to make to make sure that we are not overhitting the the allowance or the workloads allowance. And eventually what we came up in some of these projects, we ended up with refactoring or optimizing some of the processes. So not only that, we made sure that we are not going to be taxed by this new or the announcement or this new business model, but also our customers are getting better service. A better app optimization leads to better load time, right? And better user experience. So I think at the end of the day, everyone can actually benefit from that. Again, but you need to know what you're doing there.
Definitely.
And I totally agree with what you said. And of course, if you are new to Bubble or you're considering Bubble, there's absolutely no way that, or there's I don't think that anyone should be concerned about that pricing model. So go ahead, build your app, and you eventually can get to that optimization later and get that app running, deployed, and serve your customers. So yeah, I guess we are on the same page here. So yeah, I think this pretty much wraps up our interview. We would we really appreciate you taking the time to share your experience with us. And I think that we have lots of stuff to look forward from and updates from Atomic Fusion to look for. So
definitely.
We will be definitely eyeing on some new stuff or new announcements from your end, of course, and we will definitely share it with the community. Hopefully some members here will make use of this session here, and I urge all of you to try the try Atomic Fusion extension, and you can also let us know how it helps you with your project. So
and any feedback that you have can come straight to me.
Absolutely. And we know that we have the right guy to to look at it. So Ranjit, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And I hope we can meet again.
Oh, this was so much fun. I think we should meet again.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Cheers.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.